Gosh, all I had to do was do what I knew that Goofy sounded like. And they liked it.
Welcome to Australia, Bill. Thanks for agreeing to chat with us today on Popcorn Podcast. We're delighted to have you here. Have you been to Australia before?
Yeah, this is actually, I believe, my 10th. It's been a number of years, but I've been to all the major cities as far away as Perth and Cairns and Brisbane,
Wow.
Adelaide, all over the place. And Melbourne is my favorite, actually.
And is that for Comic Cons that you've come down here for those events?
For MetroCon this coming weekend, yeah, Saturday and Sunday, and it's kind of nice to get away from the heat in Los Angeles. In Fahrenheit, it's well over 100 degrees, so it's nice to have
Wow.
chilly days and a little bit of rain's nice too.
We hope you get some nice weather too. Now, you've been doing this a really long time, but take us through some of the characters that you're most responsible for these days.
My longest running character and probably my greatest one is Walt Disney's Goofy and Pluto, which I've both been doing for the last 37 years. And no
Wow.
one else has ever filled in for me. So I may be the longest running cartoon character in at least the Disney world and maybe in all of cartoondom. And of course, Goofy, Pluto, Horse Collar, of the traditional Seven Dwarves, I'm Sleepy. We did a series called the 7D where I was Doc. I have a show that's on Disney Plus called Amphibia. We did 3 seasons of that. I play a character named Hop Pop and did about 40 or 50 ancillary characters in those series. I've done about 3,000 shows now for Disney over the last 38 years, and Warner Brothers and many other Illumination movies, and a lot of the classic movies, Beauty
Yeah.
and the Beast, Toy Story 2, Bugs Life, Monsters Inc., all sorts of things.
An incredible career. It sounds like we need to get the Guinness World Records on the phone to check that longest voice actor
Yeah,
stat.
I have to check my IMDb Internet database to find out what I've done.
But Goofy's keeping you pretty busy, though.
Gosh, yeah. I always bring him with me wherever I go. Yeah, he's my favorite and was as a kid too. He was my favorite Disney character. And I'm so thankful that I was able to win that audition. And it's been the gift that keeps giving all these 37 years. Still working on new projects all the time. And I have a big thing next week, actually. I am performing live for the first time ever on the Hollywood Bowl stage, doing a concert with Jodie Benson from A Little Mermaid, Susan Egan from Hercules, a lot of Broadway stars on the music from Disney movies from the 80s and 90s. So this will be a very
Wow.
first for me to sing on stage in front of an audience of about 17,000 people doing a song from a Goofy movie.
Wow. Did you perform the song in the movie?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
way back almost 30 years ago. 1995 is when a Goofy movie came out. And
Yeah.
still, fans at Comic Cons around the world, it's the number one thing people ask me about and want to know about is a Goofy movie.
I mean, people might not realize this, but Goofy was actually the first Disney classic character to get his own full-length feature film.
That's true. It is a Goofy movie. I did a series in the early 90s called Goof Troop. And originally, a Goofy movie was supposed to be a Goof Troop movie, as there was a DuckTales movie and then
Yeah.
DuckTales the series. It was supposed to be based on our television series, but it took a life of its own in script writing and became this buddy picture and a fan favorite. And it's as popular now, if not more so, than it was when it came out. And every Comic Con I go to, one of the main questions is, tell us about a Goofy movie. Thank you for giving me your childhood. Now they're old enough that they usually say, when I was young, I sided with Max's point of view. And as I got older and got kids, now I understand what Goofy was talking about. So it's full circle.
And you understand the clumsiness as you get older as well.
Absolutely.
Now, when you first chased your dream to LA back in the 80s, one of your first gigs, as you mentioned, was Goofy. Did you ever imagine that you would be taking over one of the most iconic characters Disney has ever created straight off the bat to start your career?
No, it was totally serendipitous. I was a stand-up comic impressionist out of Dallas, Texas. And on the advice of an agent and my wife, we moved to California to see what would happen in Hollywood. And I finally got an audition where they said, do you do any of the Disney characters? At the time, there were 4 or 5 Mickeys, Donalds, Goofies, and they wanted to settle on one voice. So there was always that same voice that you heard. And out of about 1,000 people that tried out, they picked me. What a lot of people don't know is that there's no contract that says you will now be the voice of Goofy from now on. every job still is a new contract. So you're as good as your last performance.
Mm.
And I've only done about 3,000 of those now. So I think I've got the job.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite an achievement to be doing that one voice for so long, because voice actors tend to be sort of session players, if you like, don't they? We're just coming in for any job and doing any voice.
That is exactly the way it is now. I have a contract for every single cartoon I do. And with Screen Actors Guild, you get to do three voices for the price of one. So they'll always say, Bill, you're the talking tree, you're the hot dog vendor. And you've got to come up with a new voice on the spot and just throw it in, whether he sounds like this, whatever. You know,
Yeah.
you just have to find a voice very quickly for these characters. I've done about 50, over 50 voices in various series, incidental that you wouldn't recognize, but I get in there.
What is it about voice work that you enjoy so much?
You know, it's you get to play. It is the freeingest, most free kind of acting you can do, really, because they give you a picture of a talking frog and they'll say, okay, what would this guy sound like? And you have to think, okay, I don't know. What's he like? Is he angry? Is he sad? Is he a happy kind of character? Goofy's such a happy-go-lucky character, and I had a voice print before that. Goofy came out in 1932. I picked it up in 1987. And so, gosh, all I had to do was do what I knew that Goofy sounded like. And they liked it. And there was a big footprint to kind of help you along, whereas a lot of characters, you have to invent them, and hopefully that the producers of the television
Yeah.
show like it. It's a new challenge each day, and it's a lot of fun. And during COVID, I had to record everything from my home studio with my son, who is an audio engineer and a professional drummer. And he's become my engineer. So I don't have to go to the studio anymore. I just walk down the hall. It's much easier.
How good is that? And speaking of challenges, it must also be challenging to inhabit an existing character that is just so beloved. Was there a pressure in the beginning to make him sound exactly like Pinto Colvig, who obviously originated the voice? And how much are
Yeah.
you able to put your own stamp on Goofy?
Over the years, I've been able to put a lot more of me into Goofy. Originally, it was a voice match. I got a cassette tape of the original Pinto Colvig. I had to do the same lines and then do some new lines and see if I could still sound like Pinto. So it was a voice match in the beginning. But as years go by, you kind of get to add a little piece of yourself to these characters, and especially in a Goofy movie where he'd never had to be kind of sad before. He'd never had to be a worried father before. You
Mm.
had to add layers of humanity to this kind of silly character and make it still sound like Goofy. That was the challenge of that movie. And I think we succeeded in that as it became, a fan favorite among all the things that I've done, and still to this day is obviously very, very in the know. Next year will be 30 years since it came out, and as I say,
Wow.
it's still as popular as ever.
It's definitely an iconic one from my childhood. And maybe you can shed some light on this since you do both voices. Why is it that Goofy is anthropomorphic and can talk, but Pluto is a dog in the more traditional sense? Is there a reasoning
Okay,
behind that?
I get that a lot. Pluto is he's a regular dog. He's a bloodhound, one of a pair of bloodhounds in a very early, I think, 1930 cartoon with Mickey as Mickey's dog. And so he's just drawn as a dog and became kind of Mickey's pet over the years. Whereas Goofy just kind of became this man dog, this creature. He's kind of Goofus Canis, I think is what it is. He's not a dog, but he's a canine. So it's kind of like a wolf is not a dog, but it's a canine. Same thing. Goofus Canis, that's what he is. Or he's a
Rufus
mog.
Canis.
He's a man dog.
A mog. I love that. If Pluto could talk, have you thought about what he might sound like?
Only once have I ever given Pluto a voice. It was one of
Yeah.
those cartoons where he had a little angel and a little devil giving him ideas on his shoulders. And I think the angel was very, very kind of English and very up here. And the devil was kind of a deep, kind of gravelly voice. Hey, Pluto, you gotta go do this. He talked once more. We actually had a cartoon many years ago where they had the angel and the devil. I didn't voice them, but the devil dog was Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller, the magic group, and Eric Idle from Monty Python was the angel dog. So I didn't get to actually add words to Pluto's vocabulary till just a couple of years ago when I got to voice him as the angel and devil.
What is your favorite Goofyism to perform?
Anything that's a challenge that takes me out of the realm of what's so comfortable. Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, we've done, 5 seasons. We're doing things we've got in the pipeline now that we'll be doing in the future, and they're aimed at kids, 5 and under, and the young kids. Then we have the Mickey Mouse Shorts, which is kind of totally drawn differently. It's kind of like a parallel universe. And so Goofy is a little stupider there. He's a little more country. He's a little bit more empty up headed. And but they're hilarious scripts, and we get to do things on that series that we couldn't do on the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, which is more gentle,
Yeah.
aimed at the kids. So whatever the aim of the series, little bits and pieces to the character, and kind of flesh him out, and kind of give the universe a little bit bigger boundary.
Could I impress on you? I know you're not a performing monkey. You're a performing dog, I guess. Could I impress on you to do the Goofy holler or yell for me? Because that's
Oh,
my
the yell?
absolute
Okay.
favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to do that. I thought that they would have me just do it once, get it right, and keep it for all time.
Yeah.
No, I have to do it every week, it seems like. And so there's short, medium, and long. So it's usually like, or, or the really long one.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you for indulging me.
My pleasure. Now, the neighbors are probably going, what's going on over there?
Yeah, exactly. I want to talk about the convention scene. You said you get to come to these conventions quite often. What's it like meeting fans, and are there any interactions that stand out for you?
Just the fact that when I'm in the booth, it's just a microphone, a table, a script. We aren't looking at anything. It hasn't been animated yet. We don't get a sense of how it plays to an audience. And we don't know how effective it is with an audience and what they think. But at Comic Cons and where we do panels and get questions, I get that, that feedback that, oh, I love this. I loved when you did this cartoon. I love that. And that's so heartwarming. Or when people come up and say, you know, Goofy really saved my life during a Goof troop and a Goofy movie times, because I identified with that as my dad. I've had people say that over the years, that it really meant so much to them. And one quick story I could tell that really brought that home. Occasionally, we'll talk to kids in hospitals, and someone wants to talk to Mickey or Donald or Goofy and whatever. And there was a woman whose daughter had leukemia, and her daughter was resisting treatment. And so Mickey gets on and says, gosh, when Pluto takes his medicine, he feels really good. Or sure does. And the child didn't really say anything. We got a letter about 3 months later that said, just from talking to Mickey and Goofy, the child's whole attitude changed, and she was willing to take chemotherapy much more willingly and went into remission. And gosh, you see that there is a power with these characters among some people. And when you know that you're doing some good like that, and that it can affect people in such a positive way, that makes it all worth it. And it's really nice to hear those stories, that these characters are important. They're not just cartoons and silly little stories and stuff. They have real deeper meanings and importance to people.
They really do. Thank you so much for sharing that story. What a beautiful, beautiful story. And I hope you have a great time down there in Melbourne, up in Sydney. So won't get to see you in person, unfortunately. But thanks so much for your time, Bill. Real pleasure.
It's been way too long since I've been in Australia, and it's just been delightful. Been walking around in the nice, cool winter air, and it's break from the 100-degree weather that we've been having.
We need a little bit of sun. Bring some sun with you next time.
All right, will do.
Thanks, Bill.